So I want to start by asking you about the ICE raids, because it seems untrue that all of those being deported are dangerous individuals. Let's posit that deporting dangerous people who are here in this country illegally is a good thing. But one of those deported was Guadalupe Garcia de Rios. In 2008, she illegally used someone else's social security number for employment at a water park, for which she was later charged with a felony. The mayor of Phoenix, Greg Stanton, put out a statement after she was removed from the U.S. saying, quote, ICE is spending its energy deporting a woman with 2 American children who has lived here for more than 2 decades and poses a threat to nobody, unquote. What's your message to the undocumented immigrants in New Jersey, your home state, who are not drug dealers, who are not gang members, who have not committed any sort of violent crime? Should they be worried about being deported?
Well, Jake, this is the problem with the whole failure of the federal government over the course of the last 12 to 16 years in not dealing with trying to reform the immigration system and bring some sense of order to this. When that's the case, then the laws that are in effect right now have to be enforced. And that's what's happening right now. Now, I know that the president's focus and his desire is to make sure that first they get violent criminals out of the United States, people who have been charged with violent acts. That's what I think what ICE is attempting to do. But as I can tell you, Jake, from having run a government for 7 years and been involved for many years as a U.S. attorney, things always don't go perfectly. And so you're going to have some people who also, by the way, have violated the law, but don't fit that one category. But that will be the overwhelming minority in all this. And what people should focus on is what the president is trying to do, which is to keep a campaign promise on making sure that violent criminals who are here illegally are taken out of the country in order to make America's streets safer.
But as you know, Governor, this is a big concern in the Garden State of New Jersey. Princeton officials are distributing information, letting undocumented immigrants know how to avoid deportation. New Brunswick, there's a debate about whether New Brunswick becomes a sanctuary city. What is your message to the citizens of your state about undocumented immigrants who, like the woman I just discussed, are not violent criminals, who have children who are American and are now in fear?
Well, Jake, first off, it should be surprising to no one that institutions like Princeton University, where, by the way, I'm a member of the board as governor of New Jersey, are going to take a very progressive, liberal position towards this, and will try to grandstand this during a time of political debate. Listen, our position has been the same all along. The federal government should be enforcing federal law. And they have to make clear that federal law will be enforced. If that's the president's desire, then he should go ahead and make sure that that's done. On the state level, we're doing the things that we've always done in New Jersey to try to keep our streets safe. That's why our prison population is at an all-time low, and crime declined again in New Jersey this year. So we're doing what we need to do at the state level to keep people safe, and the federal government should be enforcing federal law, and if they don't like the federal law, then they should go to Congress and get it changed.